How's it going, guys? I'm just going to walk you through my process for designing a spoon template. This isn't meant to be exactly an instructional video as much as just a way to do it, and I'm going to show you what I do while I just talk through it. So first things first, take a straight edge, ruler, something like that, and draw a line that is longer than the length of the spoon. So you could use other materials like a unfolded cereal box is a great one for making templates, or other file folders, something like that that'll unfold into something longer. I'm just going to use this white piece of paper, easier to see on camera. So that'll be the center of your spoon. I'm going to do something roughly like a smaller version of this, more or less. I usually don't use templates, but I find when I do use a template, I'm usually pretty pleased with the symmetry. It's just easier on the eyes. So this first part is going to be the main part of the bowl. So this is going to be the widest part of the bowl. So this first circle is going to be the largest circle you make. So just think about whatever size you make it the max width of the bowl. So if I wanted to copy this directly, you could measure it, whatnot. Some people just trace spoons. That's a good way to do it. So that's the widest part of the bowl. So in the end, if you were to draw a dotted line right across here, that would probably also be the deepest part of the bowl, where the most bend is, the most crank shows up. This spoon doesn't have a whole ton of crank. Okay, next, you're going to make a circle with a smaller radius. So this was the original radius, right? Well, I want to make the tip of the bowl, which is going to be a smaller radius, right? If you look at this arc, that arc is definitely different than the arc down here at the bottom. So I'm going to shrink it, and there's a lot of math to do. You could follow the rule of thirds or something like that. I just pick just a little bit bigger than half of the radius of the original one, and then I'm going to move it up, something like that. And the best part is, if you're using paper like this, you can experiment, figure out what you like. And now you've got the beginnings of a good egg shape. If you have a French curve, you could use a French curve to smooth this out, but I'm just going to eyeball it. And you've got pretty decent egg shape for your spoon bowl. And if I had done a smaller radius and moved it up, it would have been a pointier spoon. If I kept the same radius but moved it up farther, once again, would have just changed the shape of the spoon. So here's an example of two where smaller radius and I move the circle way up. So that's a big pointy egg. This one, bigger radius on the second circle and closer in, so a lot more rotund. So that's your bowl. Step 2 is actually we're going to move way down the other end of the handle, and we're going to decide the max width of the handle, okay? And if you're like me, the handle is like the thing easiest to do by the eye, but just for the sake of planning and making a nice finished product, I'm just going to pick a circle, and what you're trying to do is just the diameter of this circle is going to be the maximum width of that handle. So when it gets to the end of the handle, that is how wide it's going to be. Okay, I'm using this as an example, but this isn't exactly what we're copying, just for reference. Okay, so that's as wide as it's going to get. It's only going to get slimmer from there, right? You kind of want a slight taper at least for going across the grain. It's easier to carve that way than going directly parallel with the grain. Alright, so that's step 2. Step 3 is we're going to be making a perpendicular line now. So this tool, compass, is super useful because you can make perpendicular lines, or you can make symmetry everywhere. So I'm going to pick on the spot, just, I don't know, this is going to be, what we're doing right here is going to be the skinniest part of the handle. So, right, when you have a spoon, it goes from the bowl down to the skinniest part, and then typically on most spoons, right, the spoon I'm making, I guess at least right now, then gets wider. So you're going to make this perpendicular line where you want that skinniest part. So I'm going to say, okay, you know, if you look at this, it's about 1 inch out. If you wanted to, you know, sketch it and then see where you naturally put it, you could say here. And I'm just going to make, I'm going to make 2 marks. Not even a whole circle. I'll mark out there and a mark out here. And then I'm going to just pick a point anywhere on this line. Right, so this is for the sake of symmetry. So it doesn't matter too much where. So I'm just going to pick right above that cross section right there. And our goal is I'm going to stretch it out so that it intersects at the same point. So I don't know if you can see, but it's going to cross right there. And then right there. And so what I did there is I made this intersection at roughly where I decided I wanted the thinnest part of the bowl to be, right? So now if I take my straight edge, I go from intersection to intersection, make a nice long line that goes through it. This was where I wanted the thinnest part of the bowl to be. So I'm going to use this perpendicular line in a minute, and if you were to move this perpendicular line closer to the bowl, you'd get a much steeper curve going on here, right? A lot more dramatic, whereas if you backed it way out, it would be, you'd almost start making a weird shaped bowl. So just something to take into consideration. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make the minimum thickness. So the most important thing is that the minimum thickness is less than the maximum, right? So I'm going to say, okay, that's about right, what I want. So I'm going to go back down to that intersection, put it right in the middle. I'm going to do my best to just mark, and it's much more difficult to do markings like that with it. Alright, so that's what that was. Smaller circles are harder to do with the compass. Okay, so now we're going to say, now we want to make this curve. Our next goal is to make the curve that comes off the bowl and into this minimum width of the handle. That's our goal right now. So you could sketch it, right? You're dealing with a lot of symmetry, and as long as you have like maximum, minimum, bowl, right? Those are the big things that really is going to throw people's eyes off when they look at your spoon. If your bowl is really wonky, they're going to notice, and that sometimes that's good if it's asymmetrical, sometimes that's bad. But now what we're going to do, and we're going to do, this is probably the least scientific part of this whole process. This is a little bit of guessing and checking, but you're trying to figure out how big the radius needs to be here. That is the radius that curves off the bowl and then meets right here for the line that will go out to your end of your handle. So I just pick a place on the line, size it up to here, to that minimum width, and then just do a quick draft, and nope, didn't cut it. Didn't meet it, so I'm going to back it up a little bit. Swing back here, and you might even want to do this, because if you start at the bowl, and then you go in and it isn't exactly what you want, that's fine. So okay, here we go. I'm going to do this one, and check this out. Goes right up against the bowl and then hits that minimum thickness mark. Now here's the thing, I can't just go over to the other side and do this all over again. I guess I could actually, you know what? I was going to do this a different way, but now I'm thinking I can actually just hop right over here. Look at this. Wow. This is not the way I was going to explain it, but this is actually better. Pick that spot and swing it out. It hits the spoon right there. And now I have two nice flowing curves right from the bowl. This part for me is always hard to get symmetrical. If we look too closely at this one, you'll notice. So anyway, now the last part here is to join those curves to the maximum width. And this is kind of a stumpy cooking spoon that we're sketching out right here. If we had a longer piece of handle, all these dimensions would be stretched out more and probably look more natural. But all right, and there you have it. And then to help your eye see it better, you can just erase all these extra lines. And you can always go back and tweak, but those are the steps. The step is 1, the bowl. And step 2 is the max width of the handle, right, way down here. 2, max handle width. Step 3 is that perpendicular line. Step 4 was determining the handle minimum width, right? So that's like you determining your goal. Do you want to get really skinny because you're going to do a keel underneath, a nice deep keel? Do you want to keep it wide because you're just going for more of a longer, flatter, squarer, right? So min handle width. We went down to the max to make sure it was definitely smaller than that. And step 5 was the neck curve radius, right? So determining, okay, well, I got to find this, so that's when we had to keep stretching it out, backing it out until it matched up, or at least got close enough, right? You don't have to stick with your, if it got a little skinnier, we could have taken that. And then 6 would be join the neck curve to the handle, right? Join neck to handle. All right, so this is just a little process that I made for planning spoon templates. I hope that it's helpful. If you do it a different way or have any feedback, let me know. Drop it in the comments. Give suggestions to other people. But yeah, hope this was helpful.